Well, well, well. Okay, so earlier I told Sandy, after what we experienced this morning, I asked her, why am I even here? Is there anything left to do or to say? I am so very grateful. I'm honored to be with you today, and I am grateful to have had the experience that I've had this morning. I mean, just a wonderful way to break through, and then the amount of information that Dr. Tate just laid upon us is phenomenal. But I'm so grateful that we're here. This is the mission conference, right? And our collective call to wholeness. Well, I'm here to, as you're on your collective call to wholeness, to share with you how you can not only just survive, but to live and to thrive. You know, I'm introduced as doctor. Yep, I've been a doctor for 30 years. I graduated when I was 7. And yeah. And so wanted to be a doctor all my life, ever since I was 2 years old. Apparently, I used to watch this program called Marcus Welby. Anybody ever heard of that? With my parents. So I would get up in the bed, climb up in the bed, and watch Marcus Welby with them. And apparently, one evening, there was this episode, and I stood up in the bed, and I said, I know what I want to be when I grow up. You know, so my parents, being the parents that they are, had follow-up questions, So what do you want to be? So I said, I want to be a doctor. So then, both my parents are like, oh, okay. So again, but being my parents, they had additional follow-up questions. So then they asked, well, why do you want to be a doctor? And I said, because I want to help people. And my mom was like, oh, my baby. But me being their daughter had a follow-up response. Second response was, and I want to make a lot of money. To which my daddy said, yes, that's my girl. But after 30 years, I did the first one 1,000 times over. That second one, I'm still working on. But that's all right. But I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was 2 years old. I married young, a week before I started my senior year of college. And no, I was not pregnant. I was just young and dumb. But we got married. We went on to have 2 beautiful daughters after I graduated from medical school. But after 18 years of marriage, that marriage ended. And I looked up, and I was a single mom co-parenting 2 preteen daughters by the age of 40. And my mom at the time was terminally ill. She was in the end stages of her life, and my dad and I were her caregivers. And I want to share a little bit about my mom with you. My mom was born in Sharon, Mississippi, great-grandchild of slaves. She married at 15, had her first child at 16. And she was a high school dropout, back then family came first. My mom endured repeated domestic violence, but for fear of the lives of her children, she didn't run until they were safely tucked away. By the age of 26, she had remarried and she had 4 children. Now, although her life was ahead of her, she was living for her children. Wanting to set an example for her 2 daughters and her 2 sons, she would not allow other societal role models to set the paths for her children. So she repurposed her life. 5 years after her last child was born, that child she calls my baby, my little sunshine, i.e. me, she went on to get her GED, scoring in the top 5% of all people who had ever taken the test since it started. She went on to get straight A's in all of her courses, leading to an associate's degree. And she went on to become one of the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's leading systemic investigators. My mom decided to live in her own power. Now, during her lifetime, she displayed immense courage and unyielding optimism. But during the last 3 years of her life, she was suffering, and she was ready to die. And I was as ready as a child could be to let their mom go until October 1st, 2008. That's when everything changed. I found a lump in my right breast, and it was cancer. A planned lumpectomy and a sentinel node dissection turned into a partial mastectomy where they removed half of my right breast, a level 1 lymph node dissection where they removed 16 lymph nodes out of my right armpit, 3 of which were positive for cancer. So it was a fast and aggressive growing cancer. And after just about 3 rounds of chemotherapy, I was home alone on a Saturday evening. One of the benefits of divorce, you get to send the kids away for a couple of weekends a month. And I'm home alone, and I experienced crushing chest pain. I mean, like an elephant sitting on my chest. You know, and you all are already anticipating as a physician, I dialed 911. Well, I didn't. Instead, I climbed up a flight of stairs. I went to my office. I pulled out my life insurance policy. I left it on the desk so it'd be easy for my ex to find. And I went into my bedroom. I climbed in bed, said my prayers, and somewhere in the midst of the severe chest pain and the shortness of breath, I fell asleep. And a few hours later, the absolute unthinkable happened. I woke up. Man, I'm telling you, what I was going through at that time felt so hard, and it felt like I was just looking down this long, dark tunnel without a glimmer of light, even in my glimpse. So I woke up. Now, fortunately, my very forgetful children, as they were then, forgot something, needed to come back home before they went to church. Well, when my ex and my children walked in and discovered the unique kind of grayish green color to my skin and a little bluish purplish tinge to my lips, I was rushed to the hospital. And I was subsequently diagnosed with right coronary artery stenosis. As it turns out, I was born with an anomalous right coronary artery, which basically means it branches off in a place where it's not supposed to. And this condition occurs in less than 0.25% of the population. And it can have one of 3 outcomes. 1, it can be and remain completely asymptomatic. 2, result in sudden cardiac arrest. Or 3, result in sudden cardiac death. Well, clearly mine decided not to remain asymptomatic. Lucky me. And so now, okay, I'm having severe chest pain. So cardiologists and cardiothoracic surgeons, team gets together to consult on my case. Well, the surgeon said, we are not touching her with a 10-foot pole, because my right coronary artery was being more than 80% blocked because it was being squished between my aorta and my pulmonary artery. So there was 3 major arteries together. Thoracic surgeon says, nope, nope, we're not touching her. But the lead cardiologist says, we got to do something. This woman's life is in the balance. So he said, you know, I'm going to take you to the OR. We're going to try to place a stent. Me being the doctor that I am, I want to be awake for the entire thing because I want to see this. So he wheels me in, gets the first stent in. We're looking. Yeah, it didn't work. Pull that one out, puts another one in. Oh, we see right away that one's not going to work. Comes on in. Long story short, he tries 22 different size stents, and none of them worked. So he wheels me out of the OR, gets me to my room. I lay flat, I do that, la, la, la. Then he gives me a handful of medication that I would be on for the rest of my life, and he wished me well. So now at the age of 41, I was facing an aggressive cancer, a potentially life-threatening cardiac defect, and my mom, my best friend, was in the end stages of her life. 4 weeks after I was discharged, my mom died. And I truly believe that if I don't give life my all, she will rise up, come and find me, and knock some sense into me. So I went on to complete 12 additional rounds of chemotherapy for a total of 15. And I was so happy to be done with chemo that I threw myself a post-chemo pre-radiation party. And I'm pictured here with my dad. And let me share with you a little bit of something about my dad. My dad served in the U.S. Army, and then he went on to become a systemic investigator for the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. He served in that role for 42 years. And he planned to retire in June of 2020. Well, in March of 2019, my dad had what could have been a fatal car accident while driving to work. And me being the daughter that I am, said, I'm seeing the handwriting on the wall. We're going to have to move that retirement up. And so my dad retired in May of 2019. Now, first of all, here is the first miracle. You do not retire from the federal government in 60 days. But he did, because I got him retired. But my dad was so angry with me, guys. He was so upset because he had it in his mind. He knew when he was going to retire, and it was going to be June 2020. He was going to have his birthday, and he was going to retire. And I made him retire a whole year earlier, just a few weeks shy of his 84th birthday. And he was mad at me, y'all, because he wanted to retire at 85. So I got some pretty good work ethic genes in me, so my dad, he did all right. So after my chemo, I went through and experienced 33 treatments of radiation. And I was so glad to be done with my treatment. I'm like, hey, I'm going to move on with my life, because most people didn't even know that I had been diagnosed. I mean, I love variety. So years ago, I would wear wigs periodically. I mean, people got used to seeing me in a blonde pixie cut for a month. And then a month later, I'm in a short chestnut brown bob cut. So people seeing a change in my hair, that didn't make people think anything. So most people had no idea that I had been diagnosed. So they had no idea the toll of losing half my right breast, my hair, my mom, and my marriage was having on my psyche. And the handful of people that did know, they didn't know what to do or say about it, but that was all right, because I was going to keep it moving, share my story on an as-needed basis, and get on with my life. Well, the summer of 2010, two significant events occurred. The first of which is I participated in my first Susan G. Komen 3-day event. Now, for those of you that may not know about the Susan G. Komen 3-day event, it is an event where you walk 60 miles over the course of 3 days. You raise money for breast cancer research and community programming, and you raise awareness about breast cancer. Well, as a survivor, man, walking, being surrounded by thousands of people who shared the same goal as me, and that's a world without breast cancer. I mean, it was a life-changing, indescribable event. But shortly thereafter, another life-threatening event, or life-changing, I wouldn't say threatening, another life-changing event occurred. Lymphedema set in. My lymph nodes in my right armpit had been completely destroyed between the cancer, the surgery, the chemo, and the radiation, leaving me with a painful and at times colossal swelling of my right arm, hand, and fingers. And I'm right-handed. Swelling that made performing the clinical functions of my job impossible. Remember, the job I've always wanted, the career I've always wanted ever since I was 2 years old. And to add insult to injury, my boss at the time, who was not a physician, pulled me into his office and he said, Sheri, a physician who is not clinically capable is of no value to me. Now, having been born and raised on the south side of Chicago, I should have had a few choice words for him, but I couldn't. I didn't, because now, at the age of 42, after everything I had been through, I now had no value. And so I had to come up with something and figure out what I was going to do with my life, because now I'm disabled from my clinical practice. I'm disabled from the career that I've spent my life attaining and achieving. And I had to reinvent myself because those now 2 teenage daughters of mine, how many of you in here have kids? How many? Okay, so now your kids may be different, but this was my kids. My kids had this insane expectation that they should be able to eat every day. So I had to figure something out. So over the next 4 months, 16 weeks, Monday through Friday, I endured daily physical therapy. I was terminated from an executive management position while out on FMLA. Yes, you heard me correctly. From an organization that I thought I would one day retire. And then I was relegated to wearing compression garments 24/7 as my only treatment option. And yes, I blung it out. I figured if I got to wear it, I might as well look cute in the process. And so now that I'm relegated to wearing compression garments, and this was my new life, I had to come up with something to feed my children. But I couldn't just do anything anymore. After everything that I had been through, my life had to have meaning. It had to have purpose. So at that moment, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to share my story. I'm going to share my struggles, my victories, and do everything I can in this fight to bring an end to this disease. Well, that revelation came in December of 2010. In January of 2011, Coleman put out a call looking for a new national spokesperson. And they sent an email out to everyone who had ever participated in the Susan G. Komen 3-day event. And because I had participated in my very first Komen 3-day event just 4 months prior, I was included in that call. Well, after 586 applications, they offered the position to me. And so I served as the Susan G. Komen 3-day national spokesperson for 6 years. And then I went on to serve as their first national ambassador for their health equity initiative for another 2 years. These roles afforded me the opportunity to raise awareness and to educate hundreds of thousands of women and men about their breast health, and to inform them how they too can get in this fight to bring an end to this disease. I had the opportunity to be at the bedside by the request of family as patients made their transition. I had the opportunity so many times, but one, my very first one that I experienced, was a young woman. The 3-day was in Michigan, and now this is Sunday. It's the last day. And she gets a call from her family, and the call says that by the time you make it home, Mom will not be here. And so she was getting ready to leave to try to head back home, and they put the phone to her mom's ear, and her mom said, no, we've said our goodbyes. Finish your race and honor me. And so she's walking or trying to, but she knows that her mom is at home dying, but her mom has left her dying wish, and that is to finish this 3-day. And so I had the opportunity to hold her hand and walk for the last 5 miles and cross that finish line and honor her mom. And so by working with others through their struggles and showing them their value, I found mine again. And so that Nimrod boss actually helped me realize a revelation, and that is that my value is not found in my do, but in my who. I'm a child of God, and there's a great plan for my life that I now intend to live out. But thank you. Thank you. And as a physician and a patient, I found that we need to take better care of ourselves. We need to take charge of our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. We do so for everyone else, but somehow when it comes to ourselves, we lose sight of ourselves, or somehow believe that we are invincible to the constant stress that's never appropriately addressed. So I have some life learning lessons that I want to share with you. And the first of which is to take a step today, no matter how small, to change the patterns of your past. And refuse to live in fear and in a state of indecision. And put setbacks behind you. You are not a failure because you try something and it doesn't work out. You fail only when you stop trying. Now, my lifelong dream was stripped from me, so you can't even hear me snap with these compression garments on, was stripped from me in an instant. And admittedly, I wanted to die as I saw no hope. I really thought the world would not miss me or my talents, and maybe in some ways, maybe even be better off without me. But by stepping up to the plate, even when I was afraid of striking out, has opened up a world of opportunities for me that I could have never imagined. After my diagnosis, I was faced with the harsh reality that I had spent the first half of my life merely existing. But since my diagnosis, I have made up in my mind and I'm determined within my spirit that I will live. And for me, I will love, I will inspire, I will voice, and I will enjoy life. And I will live every day. And now I leave behind a legacy that will allow other individuals to journey down a path that's not nearly as harsh and not nearly as painful and not nearly as long as the path and journey that I had to make. And so I challenge you to live. And I challenge you to be bold in your living. But when I say be bold in your living, I mean be willing to take action. Again, something we do so easily for others. But if we take a moment to ourselves, we feel guilty. We start thinking about all the work that's going to be waiting for us when we get back from vacation before we ever even leave. And if we sit still for more than 5 minutes, we feel as if we're wasting time. We were never meant to live overwhelmed and overcommitted lives. We were meant to live abundant lives, and that with joy. And not only do I want you to be willing to take action, but I want you to give abundantly. Not just of your money, not just of your time, but of your presence, of your touch, of your smile. This was something I did so easily as a physician. You know, you walk into a room, good morning, Mr. Brown, how are you doing today? Right? But what I found is that when I became so overcommitted, it became very robotic. And as soon as I was asking Mr. Brown how was his day, I really didn't care because I was already on to the next thing before the man could even reply. And after my diagnosis, when I realized just how overly committed I had allowed my life to become, I was reminded of something that happened to me in medical school that brought this all back home. I'm a first-year medical student. There's a second-year medical student. I graduated from Loyola. Loyola Strict School of Medicine back in that day, I don't know if the numbers have switched. They certainly switched after I graduated because I ensured that it would. But prior to me coming in and making a switch, Loyola Strict School of Medicine had a habit of pretty much always only bringing in one black female and one black male. I can say it and I can announce it because they've confessed to it, and I helped them to move those numbers after I matriculated there. But as a result, it made for a very small environment when it came to individuals that looked and sounded like you. And so Margaret was a second year, and she just kind of took me under her wing. And so we became fast friends. And I remember this one day, we were in the cafeteria. Margaret was fortunate enough to live close enough, and she wasn't married, so she had a chance to live at home while she went to medical school. Saved tremendously. I remember that young and dumb person was married. So I didn't have a home of my parents to go to. And so we were both in the cafeteria. She's trying to find something to eat and snack on her way home. I'm trying to find something to eat and snack on that I could sneak into the library while I studied. And so we're chit-chatting and we're walking around, and she really couldn't find anything, and Sheri found her favorite snack that she could afford when you're married to a man making only $13,000 a year. Yes, y'all, I'm telling you, I was young and dumb. So I got my usual bag of pretzels and a big cup of water, make it hot water. You take about, you know how they used to tell you, you can take the little courtesy lemon wedges. Most people would only take 2. I took like close to 20 and then added in some sweet and low. Make some mean lemonade. I'm just trying to tell you. It's po' folks lemonade. So I get my pretzels and my lemon water together, and we're heading out. And I said, well, girl, what you about to do? So she says, girl, I'm going to go home, see what my mama made. And I said, Margaret, why are you in this cafeteria? If I could go home and eat my mama's cooking, I would have bypassed this cafeteria. Girl, get on home. We do our little laugh. We hug. We kiss each other on the cheek. And I tell her, look, leftovers, see me tomorrow. She said, girl, I got you. She walks to the right to go to the tunnel to get towards the parking lot. I go to the left to get to the library. I'm not in the library less than 10 minutes before someone is running into the library where it's shush, Sheri! They yell out my name, freaks me out. I jump up and they say, come with me. So I recognize the person as a resident. So I'm running with the resident, trying to figure out what's happened. And as we're running down the hall, and I'm like, what's going on? Stop just short of the emergency room. The resident says, Sheri, I know how close you two were, and I just wanted you to know that Margaret was found in the tunnels seizing. She was in status epilepticus. They couldn't stop the seizing. And she's in the ER now, and she's fixed and dilated. So we wanted you to be the first to know. Her parents and her family are on the way. And so I got a chance now to walk into the ER, and I'm looking at a woman I just saw less than 10 minutes ago, vibrant, hugging, kissing, and now her eyelids are pretty much almost closed, and I see her pupils fixed and dilated. And what that lesson taught me, that I had allowed myself to become overly committed and overwhelmed to forget, but not anymore, is that the last smile Margaret saw was mine. So I want you to give of yourselves and slow down enough where you can appreciate that the smile you give someone could very well be the last smile they see. And to bring it home even more, today, beautiful, I'm telling you guys, as a professional speaker, I've done close to 700 of engagements now in the last 7 to 10 years. This is the first healthcare-related organization that I've ever spoke for that had a program like this. And I was just so enthralled and so elated and was just getting so much out of it and was just at another level. And then while I'm sitting here, I get a text message that my mother-in-law, who I call mom because mine is deceased, died. I just talked to her less than a couple of weeks ago. We were planning our next call on Mother's Day, and I'm so very grateful that I've always taken the time. I let her son go a long time ago, y'all. Had to let him go, but I kept the mama and the kids. But the love that I developed with this woman, I'm so grateful that I did not allow any time to go by where I did not miss hearing her voice. Because what I didn't know was that a couple of weeks ago was going to be the last time I heard her voice. And so I'm grateful for what we had this morning, because that's how I'm able to stand before you now, not like a blubbering idiot, because the music was able to heal me. And because I have been living every day, and I lived those phone calls and experiences that I had with Mary, and so I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I'm actually grateful for the time that we had. And then I want you to live in the present and hope in your future. Today is an important day for you. Today is the day that you develop a new mindset. You get a whole new attitude, and you begin to make choices that are better. Better to the extent that your tomorrow will be better than your yesterday. And so I want you to be bold in your living. And I'm telling you that when you look back on everything that you have been through, and you decide deep down within yourself that I am going to do something different, stand by it. Because I've changed my outlook. I have a new way of thinking, a new perspective. Because I learned the hard way that joy does not come from having your circumstances in order or under control. Joy comes from what's in your heart. And contentment is not about what side of the tracks you were born on, how much education you have, your job title, how much money you have. None of that. Contentment is a heart attitude. You will not find a more thankful person, a more happier person than someone who is truly content. Because the word content means being satisfied to the point where nothing disturbs you no matter what's going on. But never satisfied to the point where you don't want to see things change. We all want to see things get better. But where we are right at this moment does not have to disturb us. We can choose to believe that things are working together for our good and that we will see the results of it in due time. Oh, but that word time, that 4-letter word time. People hear time and they talk to me and they see, one person asked me just 2 months ago, okay, so Sheri, I counted, there are 20 initials behind your name. Do you plan on getting any more? And I said, probably. I've accepted I'm a lifelong learner. And certainly when you get initials behind your name, that takes time. Healthcare consulting business, that takes my time. Professional speaker, more time. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a minister, I'm all of that. All of that takes time. So people want to sit up under me and wonder, what have you done to manage your time so well that you get to do all of this? And I tell them the first thing I did was debunk that myth of time management. I cannot tell you how to manage something that is fixed. There are 24 hours in a day, 168 of them in a week. And the seconds in a minute or an hour cannot be fixed, finagled, cajoled, managed, or multiplied. But be assured, you will always find time for the things that you put first. And so, I tell them, I cannot tell you how to manage your time, but I can tell you how to manage your priorities so that you can get more out of life. That's really why people want to find out this whole mythical time management. They want to find out, how can I do more with the time that I have? So you manage your priorities to do that. So I'm going to tell you 4 simple steps. And I'm telling you, it was perfect that I came behind Dr. Tate. Perfect. So this is that personal part, right? This is not the organizational part. This is the personal part. So 4 simple steps. Number 1, I want you to write down all of the things that you want more of. And yes, write them down. Do not keep those as thoughts in your brain. Because when you take pen to paper, you are translating your desires into a physical reality for the first time. It's an art of creation. Number 2, pick one of them to accomplish over the next week. And all of you I see so many beautiful people out here. Every single last one of you are absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, smart as a whip. And you're going to write down that list, and the first 5 are going to come real fast, and you're going to say, oh, I can knock the first 3 out now. Don't do it. Humor me. Only pick one to achieve over the next week. Number 3, make it a priority. Put it on your schedule. That's how you make it a priority. I don't know about you guys, but ooh, baby, if I lose this thing, You open up to the calendar, and there are dots from here till February of 2024. But I have them color-coded. I know my purple is for work, blue is for personal, yellow is for the ones that I haven't quite accepted. I don't know if I'm going to decline them. Make it a priority. I know your priorities by the calendars and schedules you carry with you. So put it on your calendar. Maybe it's, you want to see your grandson playing more basketball games. Well, Joshua has a basketball game next Thursday at 4 p.m. You put it in your calendar. The 4th step, so important, it has 3 parts. Do it, savor it, and celebrate it. So next Thursday, 4 p.m. comes, you are at Joshua's basketball game, you do it. You do not allow anything outside of a life-threatening emergency prevent you from being at Joshua's basketball game. And when you are there, savor it. Be present in the moment. Put your phone away. Don't answer any text messages. Don't make your grocery list. I don't even want you thinking about what you're going to prepare for dinner. I want you to be present so that when Joshua locks eyes with you, his Gigi, his Nana, and he's smiling because you are finally at a game, I want you to be present when he looks at you so he can see you. I want you to close your eyes like we did earlier when he said, close your eyes and pay attention to the music. I want you to close your eyes and take in the assault to your olfactory nerves when the musty bodies are running up and down the court. And then when it's over, part 3, celebrate it. When Joshua runs over to you and gives you that sweaty hug, totally not thinking he is stanky and he's wet, but you're celebrating it. So now when he runs off to go get cleaned up and you wipe that river of sweat off of your face, you pat yourself on the back and celebrate it because you've just now gotten more out of life and you can continue to add to that week after week. So the following week, you're not taking Joshua's game off the calendar. It's still on. This is when you get to go back to that list and pull something else off to place on it. I would have never found what I was capable of doing had I never tried anything. I used to stay in a safety zone because I thought, in the safety zone, I'm safe. But what I found is that in that safety zone, I never was capable of developing my full potential. And I really wasn't even fulfilled in what I was doing because I found out that you have to step out and find out because you can either be pitiful or powerful. But certainly not both. So, one of the things that I was concerned about and that was difficult for me, and I guess I can say that when we examine why we avoid challenges or even hesitate, I think we would all have to agree that fear is what stands in our way. But it seems as if life always has a way of bringing us to a place where we need to make a fresh start. And some of you may be there right now. Maybe you want to revive a lost dream or break a bad habit. Maybe you want to start your own business, get a better handle on your finances, or write a book. Whatever it is, this could be your new beginning. Your time to get up and get on with your dream, your vision, your assignment, your life, because it belongs to you. On this journey in life, we have to be comfortable with uncertainty and improvisation. When that happens, you will live wisely and well, not in spite of your troublesome journey, but because of it. My travels allowed me to come in contact with people from all walks of life. But I will say that I've had a large majority of presentations where I'm talking to cancer survivors. And so as such, I could be at a survivor's breakfast and there are 5,000 people that are present for this particular luncheon, all across this country and abroad. Do you know what I ended up coming across? So many beautiful women walking around with fat, swollen limbs. And when I would walk up to them and ask, oh, well, what are you doing for your lymphedema? I got one of two responses. First response, which really gripped me, was, huh? I said, well, what are you doing to treat your lymphedema? Oh, girl, that's just some swelling. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and, and the doctor, and they told me that I may experience some swelling. So now this is a patient that does not even know that one disease that 5 years later people will consider her cured from has now caused another disease that there is no cure. And she's walking away thinking that it's just some swelling. So she doesn't even have a clue what she has. So why would she treat it if it's just some swelling? The second response I would get is, I I can't afford the garments. My insurance company doesn't cover it. So they know what they have. They know how it should be treated. They did physical therapy. They did everything right. But when it came to the compression garments, they just simply couldn't afford it. They were too busy trying to afford the tamoxifen or the anastrozole or whatever else. They couldn't afford the out-of-pocket costs for compression garments because the insurance company didn't cover it. And so I did some research back in 2017, and there just wasn't a whole lot out there for lymphedema patients. So I was a little scared, a little nervous because I had enough on my plate. But be assured, you will always find time for the things you put first. So I moved up my list to start my own nonprofit, the Live Today Foundation. The Live Today Foundation has three primary goals. Well, had three primary goals when we first started. That is, one, to educate physicians and other healthcare practitioners on how to properly diagnose lymphedema and to make them aware of the psychosocial impacts of lymphedema on a survivor's life. I have to admit this, as a physician, I didn't think about the financial burden of having to have 2 sets of daytime garments and at least 1 set of nighttime garments. I didn't think about the cost of having to buy a new wardrobe, because if you had shirts that fit, well, they fit my left arm, they don't fit my right arm anymore. And even if I did have like pretty blouses like this with the nice full sleeves, well, if they have little small buttons, my fingers don't move the way they used to. I can't even button it up. So they're new clothes. The beautician, the esthetician that needs their hands for their job now has to think about a new career and a way to feed their children. And when I was telling you about those daytime and nighttime garments, well, see, the daytime garments we can kind of make cute and, hide them a little bit. Well, that nighttime garment is what I like to describe it as my oven mitt. You guys are familiar with oven mitts, right? So, they're big and poofy. So imagine a long oven mitt that comes all the way just shy of your shoulder, and the only things that you can see out are your fingernails. But imagine an oven mitt that has enough compression that you don't just slide into it like you do an oven mitt. You kind of have to work that thing on, finally get it up. So I also make healthcare practitioners aware of the stigmata of having a swollen limb and having to put on this nighttime garment. Because, see, ladies, if you have a boo and you've had date night and you come home and you say, okay, or you're married and you're like, oh, there is no spontaneity when you're putting on this nighttime garment. You literally got to put it up and say, look, what we doing? Because once I put this on, that arm is out of commission. And I am not taking it off. What we doing? Okay, so you have to make people aware of all of this. So I would educate physicians and healthcare practitioners. Number 2, educate patients of what they have, the importance of treatment. And then number 3, to provide free compression garments to under-resourced cancer patients and survivors living with lymphedema. And now our 4th goal is to educate individuals about that stage 0 and stage 1, the reversible stages of lymphedema, that if they're in a proper lymphedema prevention program and are being monitored correctly and judiciously, we can catch lymphedema in its reversible stages, and with intervention, putting them in compression garments for 12 hours a day for 4 weeks, 95% of individuals do not go on to develop chronic disabling lymphedema. So can you play this video for them? You can stop the video now. I was scared as I don't know what, you all. Putting my name out there, I had worked very hard to create the Dr. Sheri brand, and putting your name out on a nonprofit, you don't know whether or not it will succeed. Would it be a blessing? Will it be a help? And I'm so grateful that now we've been able to help over 400 women and men get into a set of free compression garments. We've actually been approached by physical therapists in Australia as well as Uganda to try to see if there's a way that we can bring at least a portion of our programming to their respective continent and country. So I am absolutely grateful and blessed that I got out of that safety zone and that I stepped up to the plate, because this time I did not, for certain, did not strike out. There are moments in your life that make you, that shape the course of who you're going to be. Sometimes they're little subtle moments. Sometimes they're big moments like breast cancer and lymphedema you never saw coming. No one asks for their life to change, but it does. It's what you do afterwards that counts. That's when you find out who you really are. And I can tell you, my challenges caused me to stray off course, but baby, I'm back. Hey, yeah. But for me, when I say that I'm back, I'm not referring to any state of being where I once was. I say that I'm back to the person that I was born to be. I was born to be exceptional, but I lived in a state of mediocrity. I'm back to the person that I was meant to be, which is a beacon of hope, but never lived up to because I was hiding in the shadow of someone else's light. And I'm back to fulfill the purpose for me, and that, my friends, is simply to live. I wrote my book to share my story of how a young physician was enjoying a full life with her beautiful family when everything changed. It's my real tale that exposes my vulnerability to a number of and an onslaught of trials that would make any woman or man reel in defeat. My emotional ride through a number of life-threatening circumstances drove me from self-examination to self-discovery, leaving me face to face with myself, my power, and my God. I'm Dr. Sheri, and my prescription for your life is to live, to love yourself and others, to inspire those around you, to voice your dreams and ambitions, and finally, to enjoy life. So on your collective call to wholeness, live. God bless you. And I want you guys to do me a quick favor. I want you, if you can, everybody that can and is willing, I want you to stand up, because I want to place you in a position of accountability. And on the count of 3, I just want you to simply say, I choose to live. You can take any one of those 4 letters when you wake up every day and say, today I'm going to love myself and somebody else. Even if it's just the teller or at the bank or the person that's ringing me up at Walmart. I'm going to say something that will show an element of care or concern. I'm going to inspire somebody today. Pick one of those letters on a daily basis. You really want to challenge yourself? Do all 4 in one day. But I want you to make a commitment. You're committing to yourself, to everybody else in this room, that I choose to live, because it won't just happen on its own. It has to be a conscious effort. Okay, so I'm going to put you on video. So when I count to 3, that's when I want you to say it now. Okay, wait. I want my camera clean. I want to see as many clear faces as I possibly can. Okay, all right, so, I made that worse. Wait a minute now. Okay, so on the count of 3, what are you going to say? Okay, that's real too fast now. Okay, because I choose to live. Okay, on the count of 3, you're going to say? Okay, you all did that real good. And then you're going to go, wow! You're going to scream like crazy, okay? All right, so 1, 2, 3. Thank you.